Nobody noticed Earl Bennett. That was the strange thing about driving a truck across America. Earl carried food to cities, medicine to hospitals, machine parts to factories, and sometimes even Christmas toys to stores before December. Millions of people depended on trucks like his. But almost nobody ever looked at the man behind the wheel. To most people, Earl was just another old semi on the highway, another pair of headlights at midnight, another tired driver buying black coffee at a gas station. Earl was 58 years old, divorced, quiet, and so used to being alone that sometimes he spoke to his truck just to hear a voice. The truck's name was Mabel. She was old, red, loud, and had a dashboard that rattled whenever Earl drove faster than 65. Earl loved her anyway, because Mabel had stayed when everyone else left. His daughter, Lily, had not spoken to him in almost 3 years. His ex-wife had moved to Oregon. His friends had slowly become numbers he never called. And the road, the endless road, became the only place where Earl knew what to do with himself. Drive, refuel, sleep, repeat. That was his life. Until one night, on a lonely stretch of Highway 50 in Nevada, Earl Bennett found something that was not from Earth. It happened at 1:43 in the morning. The desert was black, the stars were bright, and Earl was fighting sleep with gas station coffee that tasted like burned pennies. His radio had been dead for 20 miles. Only static came through the speakers. Then, a soft blue light flashed across the windshield. Earl frowned. At first, he thought it was lightning, but the sky was clear. The light flashed again, this time brighter. Mabel's engine coughed. The headlights flickered, and something small fell from the sky ahead of him, landing in the middle of the road. Earl slammed the brakes. The truck screamed across the pavement. Coffee flew into the air. A bag of beef jerky hit him in the face. Mabel stopped only a few feet from the object. Earl sat frozen, breathing hard. Then he looked through the windshield. In the middle of the highway, smoking slightly, was a tiny silver pod, about the size of a cooler. Earl stared at it, then at the empty desert, then back at the pod. "Nope," he said. He put the truck in reverse, but before he could move, the pod made a sound, a tiny sound, not mechanical, not an alarm, a whimper. Earl's hand stopped on the gear shift. He knew that sound. It was the sound of something small, hurt, and scared. He sighed. Of course. He grabbed his flashlight, stepped down from the cab, and walked toward the smoking pod. The desert wind moved around him. Everything was too quiet. When Earl reached the pod, he saw a crack across the top. Blue light leaked from inside. He tapped it with the flashlight. The pod clicked. The lid opened, and something looked up at him. Earl froze. Inside the pod, curled in a nest of glowing wires, was a creature no bigger than a house cat. It had soft gray-blue skin, 2 large golden eyes, 4 tiny paws, and a tail that glowed at the tip like a little star. 2 small ear-like fins trembled on its head. It blinked at Earl, then sneezed. A tiny spark shot from its nose and burned a hole in Earl's sleeve. Earl stared at the hole, then at the creature. "Well," he muttered, "that's new." The creature made another weak whimper. Earl looked down the highway. Empty. No cars, no people, no explanation. He should have called someone. The police, the military, NASA, anyone. But the creature was shaking, and Earl Bennett had spent enough years alone to recognize loneliness in any language. So he took off his jacket, wrapped it around the tiny alien, and lifted it gently. The creature curled against his chest. Its glowing tail flickered once. Then it fell asleep. Earl looked up at the stars. "I'm too old for this." Then he carried the alien back to his truck. Inside the cab, Earl placed the creature on the passenger seat. The alien immediately woke up, looked at him, and made a soft chirping sound. Earl pointed a finger at it. "Do not melt anything." The creature chirped again, then licked the dashboard. Mabel's radio suddenly came back to life. A country song blasted at full volume. Earl jumped so hard he hit his head on the roof. The alien seemed delighted. It slapped both tiny paws on the dashboard. The windshield wipers turned on. The heater blasted hot air. The horn honked twice. Earl grabbed the creature and held it up. "No. Bad, whatever you are." The creature stared at him with huge golden eyes, then made the saddest little sound Earl had ever heard. Earl paused. "Don't do that." It did it again. Earl sighed. "Fine, but no touching buttons." The creature touched a button. Mabel's seat moved backward. Earl closed his eyes. This is going to be a long night. He needed to give it a name. He could not keep calling it whatever you are. After 10 minutes of driving, the creature crawled into his lunch bag, ate 2 crackers, rejected a pickle, and fell asleep inside an empty potato chip bag. Earl looked over. The bag moved slightly with each tiny breath. He smiled despite himself. "You look like a nugget." The creature opened one eye. Its tail glowed brighter. Earl nodded. "Nugget it is." By sunrise, Earl reached a small truck stop outside Ely, Nevada. He parked behind the diner, far away from other trucks. Nugget was asleep inside his jacket. Earl needed coffee and answers. He got coffee first. Inside the diner, a waitress named Marcy filled his cup. "You look terrible, Earl. I found a space cat." Marcy stared at him. Earl took the coffee. "I said that out loud, didn't I?" Marcy nodded slowly. "Long night? You have no idea." From outside, Mabel's horn honked. Once, twice. Then the truck's headlights flashed in perfect rhythm. Earl looked through the window. Nugget was standing on the steering wheel. Marcy leaned beside him. "Your truck doing that by itself." Earl paid for the coffee and started walking out. Electrical problem. The horn played 3 notes. Marcy frowned. Was that happy birthday? Earl walked faster. Back in the truck, Nugget was very proud. Earl climbed into the cab and pointed at him. "We are trying to be invisible," Nugget chirped happily. The radio turned on again. A news broadcast crackled through. "Reports continue this morning of unusual blue lights over rural Nevada. Officials say the event was likely a meteor shower." Earl stared at the radio. Nugget stared too. Then the creature's ears flattened. For the first time, it looked afraid. Earl noticed. "What is it?" The radio changed stations by itself. Static filled the cab. Then a voice came through. Not human. Cold. Metallic. Searching. Nugget hissed. Its tiny body glowed blue. Every light on Mabel's dashboard flickered. The strange voice spoke again. "Beacon detected." Earl's stomach sank. That did not sound like a meteor shower. He shut off the radio. Nugget crawled into his lap, trembling. Earl looked at the road ahead, then at the little alien. "Someone's looking for you, aren't they?" Nugget made a quiet sound. Earl put both hands on the wheel. "Well, they're going to have to catch Mabel first." The next 2 days were the strangest of Earl Bennett's life. He tried to keep driving his route. He tried to deliver his cargo. He tried to act normal. But normal becomes difficult when a tiny alien pet is living in your truck. Nugget learned quickly. Too quickly. It learned how to open the glove box. It learned how to steal French fries. It learned that stepping on the brake pedal made Earl shout very interesting words. It also learned how to imitate Earl's voice. The first time it happened, Earl was fueling the truck. A young man at the next pump said, "Nice dog." Before Earl could answer, Nugget poked its head out the window and said in Earl's exact voice, "Mind your business." The man dropped his drink. Earl slowly turned to Nugget. Nugget blinked innocently. Earl whispered, "We are having a serious conversation later." At another stop, Nugget climbed into a vending machine. Nobody knew how. Earl spent 20 minutes trying to get it out, while Nugget happily passed snacks through the slot. A group of truckers gathered around. One man said, "That's the best vending machine I've ever seen." Earl pulled Nugget out by the tail. "We don't live in machines." Nugget made a disappointed chirp. At night, when Earl parked under the stars, Nugget would sit on the dashboard, watching the sky. Its tail glowed softly. Sometimes it hummed, low and gentle. When it hummed, Mabel's engine ran smoother. The tires stopped shaking. The old dashboard lights glowed warm blue. Earl began to sleep better. For the first time in years, the truck did not feel empty. One evening, Outside a rest area in Utah, Earl took out his phone. He opened Lily's contact, his daughter. He stared at her name for a long time. Nugget climbed onto his shoulder. It looked at the phone, then at Earl. Then it pressed one tiny paw on the screen. The phone called Lily. Earl panicked. No, no, no. The call connected. A woman's voice came through. Dad? Earl froze. Nugget froze too. For 3 seconds, nobody spoke. Then Earl said, "Hi, sweetheart." Lily was quiet. Then, "Is everything okay?" Earl looked at Nugget. The tiny alien tilted its head. Earl almost told the truth, that he had found a glowing alien creature from space, that someone or something was hunting it, that for the first time in years, he did not feel completely alone. Instead, he said, "I just wanted to hear your voice." There was a long silence. Then Lily said softly, "I'm glad you called." Earl looked away. His eyes burned. Nugget pressed its head against his cheek. That night, Earl decided he would protect Nugget no matter what. He did not know why the creature had come to Earth. He did not know who was hunting it. He only knew one thing. It trusted him, and that was enough. But trust has a way of drawing danger closer. The next morning, 3 black SUVs appeared behind Mabel on the highway. No license plates, tinted windows, moving too smoothly. Earl watched them in the mirror. Nugget stood on the passenger seat. Its fur-like skin bristled. Earl muttered, "I don't suppose those are friends of yours." Nugget growled. The radio turned on by itself. The cold metallic voice returned. "Guardian seed located." Earl frowned. "Guardian seed?" The voice continued. "Retrieve before planetary awakening." Earl's hands tightened on the wheel. One SUV moved into the left lane. Another moved to the right. The third stayed behind. They were boxing him in. Earl looked at Nugget. Nugget looked at Earl. Earl smiled. "Mabel and I have been through worse." That was not true, but it sounded good. He slammed the gas pedal. Mabel roared. The old truck surged forward. The SUVs followed. Down the desert highway they raced, past red cliffs, dust clouds, and warning signs nobody had time to read. Nugget jumped onto the dashboard. Its tail glowed bright blue. Mabel's engine screamed, then smoothed out, then became something else. The truck leaped forward like it had dropped 30 years of age. Earl's eyes widened. "Mabel?" The speedometer passed 90, then 100. Earl shouted, "Nugget, what did you do?" Nugget chirped proudly. Behind them, one SUV's engine exploded in blue sparks. Another swerved into the sand. The third kept chasing. A black drone rose from its roof. It locked onto the truck. Earl saw it in the mirror. "Oh, come on!" The drone fired a red beam. Nugget jumped in front of Earl, opened its tiny mouth, and screamed. Not loud. High. Pure. A blue shockwave burst from its body. The red beam shattered. The drone fell from the sky. Earl stared at the tiny creature. Nugget shook itself, then sneezed. Another spark burned a hole in the dashboard. Earl nodded slowly. "Okay, you're not a space cat." The truck kept moving. Far behind them, the last SUV stopped. But the danger was not over, because high above Earth, something much larger had heard Nugget scream. That afternoon, Earl pulled into an abandoned way station. He needed to think. Nugget sat on the hood of Mabel, watching clouds gather over the desert. Earl opened the radio panel, because the strange voice kept coming through the speakers even when the radio was off. Inside the panel, blue light pulsed. Not from the truck, from Nugget. Earl turned toward the creature. "What are you really?" Nugget looked at him. Its golden eyes shimmered. Then it touched the truck's antenna with its tail. The world changed. Earl was no longer standing at the way station. He was seeing stars, thousands of them. A memory or a message. He saw a planet covered in oceans of blue light. He saw creatures like Nugget, larger, graceful, glowing in the skies like living comets. He saw them traveling from world to world, not to conquer, but to protect young planets. They were called Luminari, living guardians. Each young luminary was sent to a world before it faced its first cosmic threat. They bonded with one protector, one ordinary life form, chosen not for power, but for compassion. Earl saw Earth from space, small, blue, beautiful. Then he saw darkness moving toward it, a swarm of black ships, like metal insects crossing the stars. The scavenger swarm. They consumed young worlds before those worlds could defend themselves. Nugget had been sent to awaken Earth's hidden shield, but its pod was damaged. It crashed early, and if Earl had not stopped, Nugget would have died on the road. The vision ended. Earl stumbled backward. Nugget watched him quietly. Earl whispered, "You came here to protect us." Nugget chirped softly. Earl looked up at the sky. Dark clouds were moving too fast. Not clouds, ships. Hundreds of tiny black shapes entering the atmosphere. Earl felt fear rise in his chest. He was not a soldier. He was not young. He was not special. He was a lonely truck driver with bad knees, an old semi, and a tiny alien pet that liked potato chips. But when Nugget crawled into his arms, shaking, Earl held it close. "You picked the wrong old man," he said. Then he smiled. "But I guess you're stuck with me." The first ships arrived at sunset. They descended silently over the desert, black and sharp, with red lights underneath. A signal blasted through every radio frequency. "Guardian Seed will be surrendered." Earl stood in front of Mabel. Nugget sat on his shoulder. The wind whipped dust across the empty highway. Earl looked up and shouted, "No!" The ships did not care. Red beams fired at the road. The pavement exploded. Earl ran for the truck. Mabel's engine roared before he even turned the key. Nugget leaped to the dashboard. Blue symbols appeared across the windshield. Earl shouted, "I can't read alien!" Nugget chirped. The truck shifted by itself. Mabel launched forward. Behind them, the scavenger ships followed. The chase crossed the desert like a storm. Mabel flew down the highway. Not literally, at least not at first. Then Nugget placed both paws on the dashboard. The truck lifted 6 inches off the road. Earl looked down, then screamed, "Mabel is not supposed to do that!" Nugget chirped happily. "She is a truck, Nugget, a truck!" A red beam struck the road ahead. Mabel swerved around it. Another beam hit a cliff wall, sending rocks crashing down. Earl drove through the dust, barely seeing anything. Then the radio crackled. A familiar human voice came through. "Dad?" Earl's heart stopped. "Lily?" Her voice shook. "Dad, what is happening?" "The news says there are objects over Nevada. Your location is on my phone. Are you there?" Earl wanted to lie. He wanted to say he was fine, that she should not worry, that this was all some military test. But the sky above him was filled with alien ships, and Nugget was glowing like a star. So Earl said, "Lily, I need you to listen. I'm okay, but I need to do something very strange." "Dad, what are you talking about?" Earl looked at Nugget, then at the road ahead. "I found something. Something small. Something scared. And I think it came here to save us." Lily was silent. Then she said, "Dad, are you in danger?" Earl's voice softened. "Yes." The word hurt more than he expected, because for the first time in years, he truly wanted to come back, to talk to her again, to make things right, to be more than an old voice she avoided. Lily whispered, "Please don't disappear again." Earl swallowed hard. "I'll try not to." Nugget suddenly stood tall, its golden eyes fixed on the horizon. Ahead, rising from the desert floor, was an old radio tower, abandoned, rusting, but still connected to a buried network of cables beneath the mountains. Nugget's tail pointed toward it. Earl understood. "That's where we need to go?" Nugget chirped. The scavenger ships closed in. Earl gripped the wheel. "All right, Mabel. One last delivery." The truck sped toward the tower. Red beams slammed around them. The windows cracked. The trailer doors tore loose. Mabel shook violently. Earl pushed her harder. The tower grew closer. 1 mile, half a mile, a quarter. Then a scavenger ship dropped directly in front of them. A massive black machine unfolded from its belly, blocking the road. Earl hit the brakes. Mabel skidded sideways. Dust swallowed everything. When it cleared, the machine stood before them, tall as a building, with 4 blade-like arms, and a red eye burning in the center. Nugget growled. Earl stared at it. "Yeah," he whispered. "I don't like it either." The machine spoke through the radio. "Protector life form is obsolete." Earl frowned. "Did that thing just call me old?" Nugget chirped angrily. Earl nodded. "That's what I thought." The machine raised one blade. Earl looked at Nugget, then at Mabel, then at the radio tower behind the monster. He had one idea. It was a terrible idea, which meant it was probably the only one he had. Earl put the truck in reverse. The machine stepped forward. Earl whispered, "Hold on, buddy." Then he slammed the gear shift into drive. Mabel roared. The truck charged straight at the giant alien machine. Nugget's body lit up blue. The red eye fired. Earl screamed. Mabel's front grille glowed. For one impossible second, the old truck became wrapped in blue light. It smashed through the machine's legs, not destroying it, but knocking it off balance. The alien machine crashed into the desert. Earl drove up the hill toward the radio tower. The truck was smoking. The engine was dying. Mabel had given everything she had. At the base of the tower, Earl stopped. Nugget jumped from the cab and ran toward the metal structure. Its tiny paws left glowing blue prints in the dust. Earl climbed out, limping. The sky above was filled with ships. The scavenger swarm was preparing to fire. Nugget climbed onto the radio tower's control box. It placed its paws on the metal. Nothing happened. Nugget tried again. Still nothing. The old tower had no power. Earl looked back at Mabel. The truck's battery was still alive. Barely. He grabbed jumper cables from behind the seat, ran to the tower, connected one end to Mabel, the other to the control box. Sparks flew. The tower lights flickered. Nugget looked at Earl. Earl smiled. Delivery complete. Nugget touched the tower again. This time, the entire structure exploded with blue light. The signal shot upward, straight into the sky. Every radio on Earth crackled. Every satellite turned. Every power line hummed. Blue waves spread across the atmosphere. The scavenger ships fired. But their red beams struck something invisible above the clouds. A shield. Earth's shield. It shimmered once, then became bright enough to turn night into day. The scavenger ships tried to retreat. Too late. Blue lightning wrapped around them. One by one, the black ships lost power. They fell harmlessly into the desert, like burned-out sparks. The massive machine on the road crawled toward the tower. Its red eye flickered. Nugget turned toward it. The tiny alien pet stepped in front of Earl. It opened its mouth and sang. A soft sound. Gentle. Beautiful. The kind of sound Earl imagined stars might make, if they were lonely. The machine stopped. Its red light faded. Then it collapsed. The desert became quiet. For a long moment, Earl heard only the wind. Then the radio crackled. Lily's voice came through. "Dad?" Earl picked up the microphone with shaking hands. "I'm here." She began to cry. Earl closed his eyes. So did he. Nugget climbed into his arms, exhausted, its tail glowing faintly. Earl held it close. "You did good, little guy." Nugget sneezed. A tiny spark burned another hole in Earl's sleeve. Earl laughed. "I really need a new jacket." By morning, the government had blocked every road within 50 miles. News channels called the lights in the sky a rare solar event. Scientists called it unexplained atmospheric plasma. Truckers called it the weirdest night in Nevada history. Earl called it Tuesday. He was taken to a small military tent. A serious woman in a dark suit asked him 17 questions. He answered none of them clearly. Where did you find the creature? Road. What does it want? Snacks. Is it dangerous? Earl looked down at Nugget, who was asleep inside his jacket pocket. Only the glowing tail stuck out. No, Earl said. Not unless you're a vending machine. The woman did not laugh. Earl did not care. 3 days later, he was allowed to leave. Nobody admitted why. Nobody explained anything. They simply returned his keys, his truck, and his strange little passenger. Mabel had been repaired, not by humans. Her engine now hummed quietly with blue energy. The dashboard no longer rattled. The radio worked perfectly, and when Earl opened the passenger door, Nugget was already sitting there, wearing a tiny seatbelt it had somehow made from electrical tape. Earl stared. "Where did you learn that?" Nugget chirped. The truck horn beeped proudly. Earl shook his head. "I'm surrounded." He climbed into the cab. Before he started the engine, his phone rang. Lily. Earl answered quickly. "Hey, are you really okay?" she asked. Earl looked at Nugget, then out at the long road ahead. "I think so." There was a pause. Then Lily said, "Can I ride with you sometime?" Earl's throat tightened. He had waited years to hear something like that. "Anytime," he said. "Anytime you want." Nugget climbed onto his shoulder, looked at the phone, and in Earl's exact voice said, "Bring snacks." Lily went silent. Earl slowly turned his head. Nugget blinked innocently. Then Lily burst out laughing. Earl laughed too. Really laughed. For the first time in years. Weeks passed. Earl kept driving, but he was not alone anymore. Nugget became part of the road. It slept in Earl's jacket. It stole fries at truck stops. It fixed Mabel when she complained. It growled at suspicious black SUVs. And every night, when Earl parked beneath the stars, Nugget would sit on the dashboard, tail glowing softly, watching the sky. Sometimes Earl would watch with him, because now he knew the truth. The universe was bigger than he had ever imagined, darker in some places, more dangerous, but also kinder, because somewhere among all those stars, a tiny alien had fallen to Earth and chosen a lonely truck driver as its protector. Or maybe, Earl thought, it had been the other way around. 1 month later, at a truck stop in Arizona, another driver leaned against Earl's door and looked at Nugget. "What kind of pet is that?" Earl glanced at Nugget. Nugget glanced back. Then Earl said, "Rescue." The driver nodded. "Looks expensive." Earl smiled. "You have no idea," Nugget chirped. Mabel's horn played 3 cheerful notes. The driver stepped back. Earl started the engine. The road opened ahead of them, long, empty, familiar, but no longer lonely. As Mabel rolled onto the highway, a faint blue shimmer crossed the sky above Earth. The shield was still there, quiet, invisible, watching, and in the passenger seat, a tiny alien pet curled up inside a potato chip bag, sleeping peacefully after saving the world. Earl looked over at Nugget, then at the stars, and smiled. "Next time," he said, "we are getting a normal dog." Nugget opened one golden eye. The radio turned on by itself. A metallic voice from deep space whispered, "Second swarm approaching." Earl stared at the radio, then at Nugget, then at the road. He sighed. Of course. Mabel's engine glowed blue. Nugget climbed onto the dashboard, and together, the lonely truck driver, the old red semi, and the tiny alien pet drove into the night, ready to protect Earth again.